Yeah, I'm not one to complain about the internet making my job slightly more difficult, because it is my jobs, plural, but I do find myself occasionally mourning the fact that everything being much more available in terms of obscure information means I have to work just a little bit harder to surprise people with this stuff instead of just being able to say, hey, this exists, ain't that weird?
How could the man who made this have murdered his only child?
Evil comes in all shapes and sizes.
She couldn't stop his execution. Now, her daughter has been given something she was never meant to have.
I know what evil looks like. I see it in the eyes of my clients, and I'm telling you, I don't see it in my daughter.
You have the power, Zoe. What do I have to do? Cut my strings.
Case in point, by now everyone and their mother knows about how Marvel Comics in the 70s made a deal with Toei Studios in Japan to make Japanese TV shows out of their properties, which yielded Japanese Spider-Man, and almost yielded a Captain America show that instead mutated into an original series that became Super Sentai, aka the source material for Power Rangers. But if you were wondering, hey, did they do anything else, or more specifically, did they do any anime before that whole thing ran its course? Yeah, they did. And it's weird.
You better not play games with me, or I'll bite a hole in your neck and suck your blood out. Remember, I'm the big, bad, bloodthirsty vampire.
Don't! You're scaring me!
Ah, don't be uptight. Come on, give me a kiss. What's happening? I don't believe it!
Meet the real big bad vampire!
The real vampire?
Alright, so for context here, 70s Marvel is kind of the reason that Marvel movies and TV at this exact point in time, right here and now, are weird and all over the place, because for whatever reason, that's the exact era they seem to be pulling just a ton of the current big Phase 4, Phase 5 stuff from. Wanda and Vision, Captain America and Falcon, She-Hulk, the multiversal cosmic batshit stuff, the political conspiracy Steve Englehart stuff, Eternals, just all the crazy nonsense they eventually paid off into the Bronze Age, and then Secret Wars, so I guess that all makes sense. Comics were selling huge, they had a whole TV show with the Hulk, the audience was basically, who knows, fucking everyone I guess, we broke the code, do whatever and see what works. As with every other pop culture thing from the 70s, as I continue to remind my Generation Z viewers, cocaine is a hell of a drug, it was everywhere, and that's what grown-ups did back when regular mental health prescriptions still had more of a stigma attached than they still do. Different, more serious discussion entirely. Anyway, a big thing that happened in that period for comics was the revival of the horror comics genre, which happened everywhere else with nostalgia reprint revivals for original EC horror type material, and at Marvel came in the form of stuff like Monster of Frankenstein, Werewolf by Night, and Tomb of Dracula, which, as the titles would suggest, put a smear of Silver Age superhero frosting over the basic Universal Monsters public domain staples that were pretty successful in their day, even if up until this year's splashy Disney Plus Halloween special based on Werewolf by Night, which was pretty damn cool if you hadn't seen it yet, they'd mostly been remembered for introducing B and C-list supernatural heroes like Blade and Moon Knight to the mainline universe. Anyway, at the tail end of their Marvel arrangement, Toei did 2 anime features based on Marvel's Dracula and Frankenstein comics respectively, and yeah, they're both pretty ridiculous and not very good. Monster of Frankenstein doesn't really have much to do with the Marvel version, it's more just a super 80s animated up version of the actual Frankenstein story.
Oh, Franken!
Emily!
No!
try to forgive me, my dear Emily. I just can't go on.
What the hell was that?
But Tomb of Dracula, yeah, that one actually did try and squish a whole few years' worth of Marvel's Dracula comic story into a direct-to-video length anime, but with some of the Marvel Universe continuity stuff filed off and nobody big like Blade showing up, which means it's weird as hell and also played out as something nobody really would have cared to put out for release by the time they made it. Unless you're the people at Harmony Gold. In which case the words unreleasably bad anime are more of a personal challenge than anything, which is how this thing eventually turned up in the 1980s syndication filler rotation as Dracula, Sovereign of the Damned.
From the dawn of creation, the history of our universe has been one of violent conflict, a chaotic clash of opposing forces vying to dominate the void. The very elements of nature itself are in constant upheaval, an eternal combat of opposites. Light against darkness, heat against cold, motion against inertia. And on the world of humankind, the awesome struggle of good against evil, the conflict between love and malevolence.
Our story opens in Boston, sure, with Count Dracula interrupting a satanic mass where a worshiper named Dolores is being given to the devil himself as a bride, scheming to pop in and steal her for himself, and betting that the Satan worshippers are stupid and won't know the difference between Dracula and the devil.
Satan at war!
Behold, it is the living presence of Satan, ruler of disciples of the Black Mass, giver of immortality. We, thy true believers, have invoked thy presence here in order to present you with our offering of our mortal bride. Dolores, rise and step forward.
Which works.
Behold, our offering has been found worthy in the eyes of Almighty Lucifer.
The offering was found worthy, but it was not Satan who received a bride this night. It was Dracula who bore the woman Dolores away from the devil worshippers.
Baby, you are so talented, and they are so dumb.
But when he tries to bite her, Dracula decides he's in love now instead, and he can't, so he'll just have to be a good husband instead.
How can it be possible for a creature such as I to feel such a tender emotion as love?
As for why he decided to punk the devil in the first place, it's gonna be a while before they decide to explain that, or, like, any of what's going on here. I'll just warn you right up front, folks. There is just no way to explain the plot of this movie without sounding like Jordan Peterson trying to explain the plot of Jordan Peterson.
Well, the question, did that happen, begs the question, what do you mean by happen?
Look at me, Iron Man.
Anyway, meanwhile, we have to take a long detour and meet the shittiest vampire hunters ever. Hans Harker, a bearded douchebag in a wheelchair.
Hey, what are you doing? Hey, knock it off. Hey.
Frank Drake, a guy who does kung fu and is apparently the great-great-nephew of one of Dracula's relatives or something.
Your ancestor was Dracula's first son, born before the Count became a vampire, so you were spared that evil curse.
Spared, was I? I still have to carry the name of that evil monster Dracula and all the memories attached to it.
I am your father's brother's nephew's cousin's former roommate.
What's that make us?
Absolutely nothing.
Rachel Van Helsing, self-explanatory, I suppose.
I don't think we should just assume that it's Dracula who committed all those New York murders. He isn't the world's only vampire, you know.
You probably have a good point there, Rachel, and we shouldn't jump to conclusions and make assumptions where Dracula is concerned, because he could be hiding out right under our noses, right here in Boston.
And their ace in the hole, a vampire-detecting dog who can do that, apparently, because
Elijah was raised in a church until they caught him drinking the holy water. Elijah's nose is an unerring radar, incredibly sensitive to the scent of evil. We can depend on him to lead us to Count Dracula wherever he may be hiding. Even with his unholy powers, Dracula can't fool or confuse Elijah.
Okay, wait a minute, that's actually a great origin story. Why isn't that the whole movie? Why the fuck are these other assholes even here? Why is anything else happening? Just let me see Dracula versus Air Blade here. There's no rule says dogs can't hunt vampires. Fuck yeah! Anyway, turns out Dracula and Dolores went full Twilight and had a baby in the intervening year, couple of months, who knows, when we check back in on the main character and finally get some backstory.
There's a shameful secret about myself which I have kept hidden from you all this time. My true identity is revealed in a mirror. I am not Satan. I am a victim of him who made me this loathsome creature, hated and feared by all mankind.
I don't hate you, Dracula.
What?
And how do you do that? I don't know. Not very bright.
If you knew this, why did you marry me?
Oh, darling, there's an awesomely powerful bond of love between us that can transform us completely from evil to good. With love, together we can conquer Satan.
I think modern women don't really understand about Superman in the 1980s. It's almost unbearable.
It turns out Dracula used to be good, but he kicked too much ass fighting off invaders when he was king of Transylvania, so when he died, Satan turned him into the Vampire King.
Enemies joined forces with the sole purpose of destroying me. And they succeeded. My blood-smeared earthly reputation had caught the attention of Satan himself. I was raised from my grave by his evil power. Neither living nor dead, I was his slave. And thus were my mortal sins on earth rewarded, condemned to exist eternally as the prince of vampires.
It's a great mythological story.
And that's why he's wanted to get back at him by taking his bride.
You never can have an ideal woman.
But Satan isn't gonna let him get away with that and sends his minions to just fucking shoot him, like with a gun.
Who needs courage when you have a gun? No, world, you put your hands up.
Prepare to die! You fool! Put down that gun! Lord Lucifer, who gave you eternal life, also has the power to destroy that life. He instructed me to load the gun with silver bullets.
Hey, Silver!
Die, vampire! What? Where'd you go?
My baby! Janus, no! You shot my baby! Oh, my baby!
You killed my son!
The movie is now only half over, and no, the vampire hunters haven't done a goddamn thing, really.
We've got to get in there and destroy him before he gets away from us.
You two settle down and quit panicking, or we'll lose control of the situation and play right into Dracula's hands, as so many before us have done. Just be calm, keep your eyes open, and we'll see how the situation develops.
Which is also what we're going to do, at least for now, in hopes of keeping these episodes at a reasonable length and getting them in under the Halloween schedule, because man, I was not kidding, as you can see, about how much movie they tried to shove into this movie. So be back here in a couple days, fingers crossed, for the somehow even stranger conclusion of Dracula, Sovereign of the Damned.